Yes, share with me whatever you know about the digestive system. Yes, Hussein, tell me. Faris. Yes, Abdul Aziz, you speak out.
It consists of small intestine and
Good,
mouth,
good,
stomach,
uh,
good.
and liver, pancreas,
Liver, pancreas, good.
gallbladder.
Gallbladder, good. Okay, what do you think is the function of the digestive system? What do you think is?
It,
Yeah,
it's responsible to digest the food.
yeah. As the name indicates, digestive system, so it mainly helps in the digestion of the food particles. Okay, do you know what is the other name for the digestive system? It is also called as? Yes, do you know what is the other name? Any one of you? Faras, you there? Yes, Abdul Aziz, you tell me what is the other name for the digestive system?
gastrointestinal, doctor.
Gastrointestinal, very good. Inshallah. Anything else?
It has the small and large intestines.
Small and large intestine, good. Yeah. What else? You said liver, stomach, esophagus,
The
mouth.
absorption
Yeah,
of
good.
nutrients,
Yeah. Okay.
absorption in the small intestine.
Yeah, good. Okay, as you said, digestive system is mainly dealing with the digestion of the food particles. So it consists of organs which are helpful, as you said, as the name indicates. They mainly help in the digestion as well as absorption. Both, not only digestion, even though it is called as digestive system, it not only digests. Digestion means breaking down of food particles, and absorption means getting into the blood. Okay, so there is a difference between digestion and absorption. Even though it is called a digestive system, it involves both digestion, that is breaking down of the food particles into smaller pieces, and then absorption. Only digestion is not enough, but absorption, so that it can be absorbed, all the nutrients are absorbed from these broken down food, and it is sent to the blood, and from there to different parts of the cells and tissue. Okay, so that is called as absorption. So it consists of organs which are mainly helpful in the digestion as well as absorption. So as you said, it is also called as the gastrointestinal tract, GIT. It is also called as the gastrointestinal tract, or it is also called as the alimentary canal or alimentary tract or alimentary system. Okay, you can call it as canal, tract, or system, anything. All are same. Okay, so it can be called as a digestive system or the gastrointestinal system or the alimentary system. It has three names. Okay, so all are same. So this begins from, as you said, from the mouth, that is the oral cavity, and it ends at the anus. So beginning is from the oral cavity, the first opening, and ends in the second opening, that is the anal canal and the anus. Okay. So the beginning is from the oral cavity and ends in the anal cavity. So apart from the main tract, as the name indicates, gastrointestinal tract, okay, there are organs which are helpful in digestion. These are called as accessory organs. Okay, so you said about them. These are the liver, the gallbladder that involves the biliary system. So biliary system means including the gallbladder and other structures. Okay. So then also the pancreas, as well as in case of the oral cavity in the mouth, there are salivary glands. So all these are part of the digestion. So these are called as accessory glands. Accessory means additional, extra, extra organs, which are not only in this tract, but they are additional so that there can be better absorption. Okay. So these are the liver, gallbladder, pancreas, as well as the salivary glands. So this involves both the main tract as well as the accessory organs. So here you can see here, this is the oral cavity of the mouth. So from there it starts, then it goes to the larynx, then this is the esophagus, this is the pharynx here, then the esophagus, then there is stomach here, then small intestine, then the large intestine and different parts, then it ends in the, here is the anus or the anal canal, and the final term is the anus. So this is whole thing. Apart from that, as we saw, there are additional accessory glands which helps in absorption. One is the liver here, then we see the gallbladder, then the pancreas, and here if you see here, these are the salivary glands. Okay, there are three pairs of the salivary glands here. Okay. If you study the histology, that is microscopic part, if you cut and see under the microscope, so there are 4 layers within the wall. This is the whole tract, this is the canal or the tube, the gastrointestinal tract or tube. So if you study this part, the wall of, this is called as the wall of the GIT, gastrointestinal tract. So if you study the wall, it is made up of 4 layers. The first and the foremost will be the mucus layer, the innermost. This is the mucus layer. The arrow is going somewhere else, but it is the here, this one. Okay, mucosa. It should go here. It is slightly deviated. So this is the mucosa, the first layer. Then we have the submucosa. This is the submucosa. This is the mucosa inside the innermost. What you are seeing, this whole thing, this is all mucosa. Okay, that is the mucosa, and here this is the submucosa. Then we have the muscle layer here. This is called as the musculosa. We study the muscles are of 3 types: cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, as well as the skeletal muscle. We saw the cardiac muscle within the heart. Then we saw the skeletal muscle attached to the skeleton. Then now what we are seeing is the smooth muscle. Here, if you see in the wall of the gastrointestinal tract, you can see again there is muscle, 2 layers of muscle. This is called as the musculosa. Musculosa means muscle layer. Okay. Then the outermost covering will be by the serosa, outermost covering. So there are 4 layers of the whole GIT. So if you study the wall of this alimentary tract or the digestive tract, it is made up of 4 layers. The innermost, this is the mucosa. Then we have the submucosa. Then we have the musculosa, and then the serosa. These are the 4 layers of the gastrointestinal tract. So as you said, so it begins from the oral cavity here. So this is the oral cavity or mouth. Then it continues with the pharynx. This is the pharynx here, this tube. Then below that, this will continue as the esophagus. This is the esophagus. Then it opens into the stomach. This is the stomach here. Then we have the small intestine. Then we have this is the large intestine. Then we have, this is the rectum here, then the anal canal. Here is the anal canal. Okay, so this is the whole of the alimentary tract or the gastrointestinal tract. So one will go one by one to see each one of these structures. The first one is the oral cavity or the mouth. As we saw here, this is the oral cavity. So the oral cavity is inferior to the nasal cavity. If you see here, nasal cavity is above. This is the nasal cavity, and this is the oral cavity. So it is inferior. Inferior means below the nasal cavity. It begins at the lips and joins the pharynx posteriorly. It starts from the lips here, and it goes all the way up to this part. This is called as the pharynx. the posterior part. This is called as the pharynx. Okay. It consists of two parts, vestibule and the oral cavity proper. So there is oral cavity proper, which is actually the mouth cavity proper. Then there is small space called as vestibule between the teeth and the lips. Okay, so if you this picture is showing the tongue. Okay, between the, if you see here, between the lips and the teeth, there is a very small space between the lips and the teeth. That space is called as the vestibule. Then the main big cavity, that is called as the oral cavity proper. So vestibule is the space between the teeth and the lips, external to the teeth. Okay. The oral cavity proper, inner, internal to the teeth, and part that contains the tongue and other structures. Okay. So what is the function of the oral cavity? It mainly helps in the digestion of the food particles. That is breaking down of the food particles. You will chew the food and you will try to break the food particles. Then the mouth is also helpful for speech. Okay. Then it also helps sometimes if there is, if you get cold and your nose is blocked, sometimes even you can respire, you can take air, alternate airway passage for the lungs. Okay. Sometimes if the nasal cavity is closed, then you can also respire through the mouth. Okay. So the main function is digestion, that is breaking down of food particles, speech, as well as sometimes the alternate airway. Now coming to the tongue, this is the tongue here. So the tongue is a muscular organ. So this is also made up of muscles. Okay, which mixes the food with saliva and begin swallowing. So it will mix with saliva, salivary gland, and then it will be help in swallowing. So there are two parts to this. One is called as the upper surface. This is called as the dorsal surface, and the lower part is called as inferior or ventral surface. The upper part, this part where the food particles is entering, so that part is called as the dorsal surface, and the lower part, when you lift the tongue, that part is called as the inferior or ventral surface. So here this is the dorsal part and ventral will be behind. Okay, so this part is divided again into two parts. Anterior 2/3, that is called as oral part. Anterior 2/3, this is called as the oral part, and this part is called as posterior 1/3, and it is the pharyngeal part. Okay, this is the pharyngeal part. So this is the oral part, anterior 2/3, posterior 1/3. So if you divide the whole tongue into three parts, two parts are in the oral cavity, one part is in the pharynx. Pharynx is behind, as I said. So the oral cavity will have the teeth. Okay, there are two sets of teeth, upper, which are attached to the bone above, that is called as the maxilla, and the teeth which are attached to the lower bone, that is called as the mandibular. So these teeth which are attached to the mandible, they are called as mandibular. So the upper teeth are called as the maxillary teeth. Okay. But the teeth, in case of children, there are few, they are just 20, and these are called as the deciduous teeth. Deciduous teeth. So they are called as deciduous because deciduous means they fall down. After the age of 4 and 5 years, all these teeth will fall down and they will have the permanent teeth. So these are called as deciduous teeth because they fall down. So they are just 20 teeth. But after that, the permanent teeth will be 32 teeth. Okay, so 32 teeth will be there. So it will be 16 pairs. Okay. So in case of the children, 20 teeth, but in case of the permanent teeth, adult teeth, that will be 32. So the gums, apart from the teeth, they are fixed into the bone by gums, which is also called as the gingivae. Is soft tissue supporting or fixing the teeth to the bone. So these gums will help in the fixing the teeth to the bone. Okay. The function of the teeth, what is the function of the teeth? It is to chew the food and breaking of the food into small pieces. Okay. So it is mainly helpful in the breaking of the food particles into small pieces. Okay. Then it also helps in speech. So if the teeth are missing, then there will be slurred speech. So it also helps in the proper speech. So here these are the teeth here. So the most anterior, okay, so the most anterior here and here on the either side, these are called as incisor teeth. Two on the right, two on the left, two above, two below here. Okay, so right and left 4 and above, right and left 4. Okay, so these are called as incisor. Then we have the canine. This is the canine teeth, which helps in the tearing of the meat and other things. So this is the canine teeth. Then we have the premolars here. Then there are 3 molars. So there are 2 canine incisor, 1 canine, 2 premolar, and 3 molar. 3 molar. The third molar comes usually at the age of 20 or 25 sometimes. Okay, even 16. It depends. It differs from person to person. Okay, the third molar. So there are 2 incisor, 1 canine, then 2 premolar and 3 molars. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, 8, 16 on one side, 16 on the other side. So it becomes totally 32 teeth. Now coming to the salivary glands, which helps in the digestion of the food in the oral cavity. The salivary glands produce saliva, which is helpful in the not only in digestion of the food but also in speech. Also, it helps. Okay, so the salivary glands produce saliva in the mouth, which participate in the digestion of the polysaccharides, and also it helps in the protection of the teeth against bacteria, because the salivary gland will be producing secretions which are called as saliva, which is antibacterial. So they kill all the bacteria. There are 3 pairs of salivary glands. These are the parotid gland, submandibular, and sublingual. There are 3 pairs, as we have seen. So this is called as the parotid gland. This large gland here, which will be, this is the duct for that, and it opens into the oral cavity. So this is the parotid gland. Then we have the submandibular. Mandible is here, the bone. Below the mandible, this is called as the submandibular gland. Then we have the sublingual. Lingula means tongue. So below the tongue, there is one more gland on each side. So this is called as sublingual. So 3 on the right side, 3 on the other side. So they are pairs. So 3 pairs of salivary glands are present around the oral cavity: parotid, submandibular, and sublingual. Okay. So these are the 3 glands: parotid, submandibular, and sublingual. The parotid gland is serous. There are different types of glands. So these are called as the parotid gland are serous, which produce the very thin fluid. Then the sublingual are mucus, which produce thick fluid, and submandibular are mixed. Both they produce both serous and mucus part. The salivary gland open ducts into the oral cavity. All these 3 glands will be opening into the oral cavity so that there can be proper digestion. Now coming to the pharynx. Where is the pharynx? It is posterior to the oral cavity. It is a muscular tube almost 13 centimeters long. So this is the oral cavity, this is the tongue, this is the anterior 2/3 of tongue, and this is the posterior 1/3 of tongue. Okay, so this is the oral cavity. Behind the oral cavity, here this is the pharynx. This is the pharynx. Okay. So it is a muscular tube, 13 centimeters long, all the way from here to here. This whole thing is the pharynx. It transports partially digested food from the oral cavity to the esophagus. If you see here, so it will transport the food, partially digested food, from the pharynx into the esophagus. Here is the esophagus. When the pharynx end, wherever the pharynx, here the pharynx end, then it begins continue at the esophagus. So it will push the food which is partially digested into the esophagus. Okay. So this pharynx is divided into 3 parts: nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. You see here, this part which is behind the nasal cavity, this is the nose, nasal cavity. Behind that, this is the nasopharynx. Behind the oral cavity, this is called as the oropharynx. This is the larynx here, respiratory tract, which continues the trachea. So this is the larynx. Behind the larynx, this is called as the laryngopharynx. So this pink colored area, this is called as the the nasopharynx. So this is the nasopharynx here. This is the oropharynx behind the oral cavity, and behind the larynx is the laryngopharynx, this blue colored area. Okay, so it is divided into nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. Nasopharynx behind the nasal cavity, oropharynx behind the oral cavity, laryngopharynx behind the larynx. As you can see here, behind the nasal cavity is the nasopharynx, behind the oral cavity is the oropharynx, behind the larynx is the laryngopharynx. Now it continues as the esophagus down. So esophagus is almost 25 centimeters long. It joins the pharynx to the stomach. It opens into the stomach. Here is the pharynx, if you see here. So this is the pharynx, and this continues as the esophagus all the way. This is the esophagus, and it opens into the stomach. So it connects the pharynx to the esophagus. Okay. So it joins the pharynx to the stomach. Pharynx to the stomach. It transports the food from the pharynx to the stomach through the peristaltic movement. So there will be some movements, constrictions and derivation, which is called as the peristaltic movement. It will push the food into the stomach. So this esophagus, again, it is divided into three parts: cervical, thoracic, and abdominal part. So there are three parts to the esophagus also, just like pharynx. This also has three parts. The part which is present in the neck behind the trachea, this is called as the cervical part. The part which is behind the heart, this is called as the thoracic part. Then a small part enters the abdomen. This is the diaphragm. Below that is the abdomen. So this part is called as the abdominal part. Then it opens into the stomach. So cervical part, thoracic part, and the abdominal part. These are the three parts of the stomach. The stomach, it is J shape. If you see here, this is the stomach here, same stomach here. So this is the stomach. It looks like the English capital J, like this. Right? This is the J here. It looks like a J-shaped dilated part of the GIT. This is the most dilated part. Nowhere it is always like this tube, long tube. Only this part where it is dilated. So it is called as the J-shaped dilated part of the GIT, lies in the abdominal cavity below the diaphragm. As you can see here, this is the diaphragm. So it lies below the diaphragm in the abdominal part. So abdominal cavity. So this is the stomach. So this stomach will produce gastric juice, which is nothing but the acid, hydrochloric acid, and pepsin enzymes will produce here. It is secreted daily by the special secretory glands in the mucosa. This stomach has special glands which will secrete the gastric juice, which is the hydrochloric acid, which helps in the digestion of the food particles which enter the stomach. The internal lining mucosa membrane secrete mucus that protect the stomach from the action of HCl. So inside, if you see here, this is how it looks like. So inside, there will be mucus glands which will help in protection of the whole of the stomach itself. So the stomach has three parts. This part here on the top, this is called as the fundus. Above the opening of this esophagus, this whole part, this is called as fundus, usually filled with air. Then this part is called as the body. Then this part here, tube-like structure again, becoming tube. This is called as the pylorus. So here is the pylorus part, cut section. Okay, if you cut, this is how it looks like. This is the pylorus part. Fundus, the body, and the pylorus. Okay, so you can see the fundus, body, and the pylorus. Now coming to the three openings. Okay, so it has three parts, two openings. One is on the top. This is the first opening, esophagus opening into the stomach. This is called as cardiac opening, cardiac orifice. Orifice means opening. Then the second opening is when the stomach finish and opens into the duodenum. This is called as the pyloric orifice. Cardiac and pyloric orifice. Then it has two surfaces, anterior and posterior. What you are seeing, this whole thing, this is the anterior surface, which is behind, that is called as the posterior surface. Then two borders. This is called as the lesser curvature, this is one border, and this is called as the greater curvature. So lesser curvature and greater curvature. This is the lesser curvature and this is called as the greater curvature. So what are the functions of the stomach? One is it will keep this food temporarily for some time. So it acts as a temporary storage of the food, allowing time for the digestive enzyme pepsin and HCl to act, the acid to act on the food. So it will store the food in the stomach for some time so that there can be better digestion and absorption. Then chemical digestion. Pepsin converts the protein to the peptides. The proteins which are present in the food will be converted by pepsin into peptides, which will be absorbed. Non-specific defense against microbes provided by the acid in the gastric juice. So when you are eating the food, it might have many bacteria, viruses, and other things. So it helps in the killing of the bacteria by the acid produced by the stomach. So these are some of the important functions. One is the temporary storage of the food, then the chemical digestion, then killing of the bacteria. Now coming to the small intestine, this consists of three parts: duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Okay, so the first part, this is called as the duodenum. The first part of the small intestine, this is the duodenum. This is how it looks like. Okay, it is C shape. So here is the pancreas. Around the head of the pancreas, this is the duodenum. This is the pancreas here. So duodenum consists of last stage of digestion. It is 25 centimeters long, has four parts. This is the first part, second part, third part, and the fourth part. First part, second part, third part, and the fourth part. So these are four parts. It begins from the stomach. So here is the stomach. So it continues as the duodenum and continues with the jejunum. So now when it ends, it continues as the next part of the small intestine, that is the jejunum. So now if you see here, so this is the jejunum and ileum. So three parts, duodenum is the short part, and now here there are called, these are the jejunum and ileum. Jejunum and ileum. Jejunum is the site of absorption and the ileum is also the site of absorption. But the main absorption will be taking in the duodenum and the jejunum. Ileum has very small amount of digestion. The length of both jejunum and ileum is 6 meters. So the longer part is the jejunum, which is the 2/5, and the ileum will be the lower part, which is 3/5. So longer part is the ileum, not the jejunum. Okay. So the shorter part is the jejunum, and the longer part is the ileum. Okay. So here is the jejunum and the ileum, which are filled within the abdomen, filled with oil coils. All these coils are the jejunum and ileum. So, but because the duodenum is very short part and it is fixed, just it is in centimeters, 25 centimeters. This is in 6 meters. Okay. Ileum joins the cecum at the ileocecal junction. Now, if you see here, it ends and the beginning of the large intestine. This is called as the cecum. This part here, below part, is called as the cecum. So the first part of the large intestine, this is the large intestine. So the first part is called as the cecum. So the ileum, this is the ileum, joins with the cecum to open into the large intestine. Now if you see here, this picture is showing you the cecum. This is the cecum here. Now coming to the functions of the small intestine. What are the functions of the stomach? Stomach we have studied. Now we are studying the functions of the small intestine. So what are those? So it is onward movement of its content which are produced by the peristaltic. The movement within this the esophagus as well as in the small intestine. That movement with which the food particles move. This is called as the peristalsis. The secretion of the intestinal juice and digestion of the fats by aids of the pancreatic juice. The pancreas, which is there here, so here it is cut. The pancreas will be there. It produces sends juices into this, which helps in the digestion of the fats. Then completion of the chemical digestion of carbohydrate, protein, fat. All these three, protein, carbohydrates, and fats, everything is absorbed in the small intestine. There is no absorption in the large intestine except the water and some salts. Okay, except that no absorption there. Main absorption is all carbohydrate, protein, fats, everything is absorbed in the small intestine. Also, it helps in the protection against the microbes. Okay, so absorption of the main nutrients, all the nutrients are absorbed within the small intestine. Very important part, this one, because it helps in the absorption of all the nutrients. Now coming to the large intestine. This is the large intestine here. So this is just 1.5 meters. The small intestine was 6 meters, especially the jejunum and the ileum together it was 6 meters. But this large intestine, even though it is called as large, it is just 1.5 meters. It is called as large because it is broad, more broad. These are lumen. Okay, so it is 1.5 meters long, beginning at the cecum. So it is beginning at the cecum. This is the ileum opening into the cecum. This is the cecum here. Okay, in the right iliac fossa and terminates at the rectum. So this continues as the ascending colon. This is the transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon, and then it continues into the rectum and the ends at the anal canal, and it terminates at the rectum and the anal canal here. So what is the function of the large intestine? So as I said, it mainly helps in the absorption of water and some salts or electrolytes. Also helps in the excretion, removing of the feces. So this is the main function. There is no absorption in the large intestine except the absorption of water and some electrolytes. So the large intestine, as I said, is made up of the cecum, the first part cecum. Then we have a worm-like structure. This is called as the vermiform appendix. Vermiform appendix. This is appendix here. Okay, this is called an appendix or vermiform. It looks like a worm, so that's what it's called as vermiform appendix. Then this is called as the ascending colon. Then we have the transverse colon. Then we have the descending colon. Then we have the sigmoid colon, S shape. This is called as the sigmoid colon. Then we have the rectum. This is the rectum, and finally we have the anal canal. So these are the parts of the large intestine. Okay. The external features of the large intestine. How do you identify and differentiate between large intestine and small intestine? So there are three features with which you can easily identify the large intestine. What are those? One is called as Taenia coli. There are bands here. These are called as Taenia coli. If you see here, this is the band. There are three Taenia coli. One in the front, two on the back side. Okay, there are two on the back. Okay. Then apart from that, there is something called as omental appendicitis. Okay, so if you see omental appendices, so these are nothing but the fat contained within the peritoneal fold. So this is the fat which is present within the peritoneal fold. Then the saculations. So sacculation means this sac-like things, small boxes have been formed. So these are called as the saculations, also called as the hostration and circulation. So these are the three features of the large intestine. This is not seen in the small intestine. If you see here, the small intestine doesn't have sacculation or retinia or anything like that. Okay, only the large intestine has these three features: retinia, then appendices epiploicae, that is the fat, and the sacculation, these back. So again, you can see here in this picture, this is the omental appendicitis. This is the appendices epiploicae, also called as the appendix epiploicae or omental appendices. This is nothing but the fat. Then this is the tinea, one in the front, two in the back. These are the three tinea. Okay, then hostrations or sacculation, as you can see here, these are the sacculations. Okay, this is all about the gastrointestinal tract. Now we also should know some of the accessory organs which are related to this. So what are those? One, as you said before, the liver, then the gallbladder, as well as the pancreas. So we have to know these three. So this is the liver here, showing you the liver, the largest organ here. So this is the right lobe of the liver, this is the smaller left lobe. So it is the largest gland in the body. Okay, nowadays we call the skin as the largest organ. Anyhow, this is the largest organ. It lies in the upper part of the abdominal cavity below the diaphragm, as we saw before. So it will be present here in this place. Okay, here in this place, just below the diaphragm. Okay. Okay. So it is the largest organ in the gland in the body. It is present in the upper part of the abdominal cavity below the diaphragm. Below the diaphragm. So it is called as the largest gland, not the largest organ, because I said the largest organ will be the skin. So this is called as the largest gland. Okay, compare it with that of the salivary glands and others. They are smaller. Okay. So the liver has four lobes. You saw the two lobes here. Right lobe, this is the right lobe and the left lobe. Then there are two additional lobes called as the quadrate and caudate lobe. Okay. So if you see here, this is the caudate lobe and this is the quadrate lobe. Right lobe, this one, this is the left, caudate lobe and quadrate lobe. Okay. So these are the four lobes of the liver. Now coming to the functions of the liver, why there is liver? Why do we need the liver? So one is the secretion of the bile. If you see here, this is the gallbladder within which the bile is stored. Okay, so this is the gallbladder. You can see it much better from the next picture here. You can see with the whole gallbladder. Okay, so the liver will be producing actually the bile and it is stored in the gallbladder. Okay, secretion of the bile will be in the liver and stored in the gallbladder. Then also it detoxes. The liver helps in the detoxification, means removal of the toxic contents of the drugs. Any drugs which have toxic content, it will be removed by the liver. Then metabolism of the fat, protein and carbohydrates. We saw that the small intestine will be absorbing the fat, proteins and the carbohydrates. And the metabolism of this absorbed fat, protein and carbohydrate will be taking place in the liver. That's why the liver is very important for the gastrointestinal system. Then also there will be synthesis of the vitamin A by the liver. So this is the liver. Now coming to the biliary system. So as I said, the biliary system mainly consists of the gallbladder. So the parts of the biliary system will be the gallbladder itself. One is the gallbladder. Along with that, there is a duct for the gallbladder. It's called a cystic duct. Then we have the bile duct, common hepatic duct, right and left hepatic. All these together, this is called as the biliary system. Main organ is the gallbladder, but apart from that, there are other structures together, which is called as the biliary system. This biliary system or the gallbladder lies below the liver, stores and concentrates the bile. So the main function of the gallbladder is not to produce the bile. Bile is produced in the liver. It is stored and concentrated in the gallbladder. So this gallbladder has fundus body and the neck. So this is the gallbladder here. So this part will be the most topmost part. This is called as the fundus. This is the body of the gallbladder and here is the neck. So fundus, this is the fundus, this is the body and here is the neck of the gallbladder. So here also you can see this is the fundus, this is the body, large body and here is the neck of the gallbladder. So the bile duct joins the main pancreatic duct to form the hepatopancreatic duct, which opens into the duodenum. If you see here, this is called the common bile duct. Joins with the pancreatic duct. This is the pancreatic duct comes and opens into this part of the duodenum. This is the duodenum, second part of the duodenum. It opens into, as we saw, the duodenum has four parts: first, second, third, and fourth part. So the duodenum, this gallbladder, the gallbladder through its bile duct and the hepatic duct. This is the pancreatic hepatic duct. Okay, this is the pancreatic duct and the common bile duct together. It is called as the hepatopancreatic duct. Opens into the duodenum, second part of the duodenum. Here is the right and left hepatic duct. This is the hepatic duct and this is the cystic duct. The cystic duct joins with the hepatic duct to form the common bile duct. Okay, this is the pancreatic duct, lowermost. This is called as that. So these are all together. This is called as the biliary system. All this together is called as the biliary system. Now coming to the next organ after the gallbladder and the liver is the pancreas. Pancreas lies in the post-abdominal wall behind the stomach, as we saw before. So this is the pancreas present around the head and neck of the pancreas is the duodenum. This is the duodenum here, and this is the pancreas, long organ. Okay, lies in the post-abdominal wall behind the stomach. Behind the stomach. It has four parts: head, neck, body, and the tail. If you see here, this part is called as the head, a narrow part is called as the neck, this is the body, and this is the tail. Towards the spleen, this is the tail. So this is the head, this is the neck, narrow part, then we have a large body and the tail. So the pancreas is a mixed gland, both an exocrine and endocrine. Okay, just like the parotid gland, the submandibular gland, this is also a mixed gland. Okay, both mixed with exocrine and the endocrine part. Okay, so it is a mixed gland, but there it was serous and mucus, and here it is exocrine and endocrine. Endocrine we have already studied in the last class, the different organs, the pituitary, the thyroid, the parathyroid, suprarenal, the ovary, the testes. All these are the endocrine glands. Along with that, even a part of the pancreas also has the endocrine part. So the endocrine part, as you know, will secrete the hormones. They are, in case of the pancreas, it is the insulin and the glucagon. Insulin and the glucagon. As we have seen, alpha cells, beta cells, and the delta cells in the previous lecture. Then the pancreas also has exocrine part, which secretes the enzymes. Exocrine part, as I told you before, exocrine part means it will have a duct. So the pancreas has both the endocrine, where it pours the hormones directly into the blood, and exocrine part where it has the duct. Okay, so which will be producing the secreting the enzymes, that is through the pancreatic juice. So the pancreas has the main duct and the accessory pancreatic. If you see here, this is the main pancreatic duct. So main pancreatic duct. Along with that, there is a smaller duct. This is called as the accessory. Accessory, as I said, means additional. Okay. So accessory, this is the small additional duct, but the main duct is the pancreatic duct, which joins with the bile duct to open into the second part of the duodenum. The main pancreatic duct joins the bile duct, as I said. So the main pancreatic duct joins with the bile duct and opens into the second part of the duodenum through the major duodenal papillae. This opening is called as major duodenal papillae. The accessory pancreatic duct opens directly to the duodenum. If you see here, the accessory pancreatic duct, even though it is a smaller duct, opens along into the minor duodenal papillae. This is called as the major duodenal papillae. Major because it is the larger, and this one is smaller, so it is called as the minor duodenal papillae. Now coming to the blood supply of the GIT. The whole of the GIT is divided into three parts: foregut, midgut, and the hindgut. Foregut is that part which is the esophagus, stomach, as well as the upper half of the duodenum, along with the pancreas and the gallbladder, liver and gallbladder. Okay, so this is the foregut. Then we have the midgut, which is the lower part of duodenum, jejunum, ileum, part of the small intestine, and part of the large intestine, cecum, ascending colon, and the transverse colon, right, 2/3. Then the lowermost part is called a hindgut, and it is the left 1/3 of transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon, and the rectum. Okay, so these are the foregut. This part, which is the esophagus, stomach, and duodenum, all this part is supplied by one artery called as the celiac trunk or the celiac artery. The midgut, this duodenum, jejunum, ileum, cecum, ascending colon, and transverse colon is supplied by the superior mesenteric artery. Then the lowermost part, the remaining part of transverse colon, descending colon, and sigmoid colon are supplied by the inferior mesenteric artery. So these are the three arteries which supply the whole of the GIT. Even though the GIT The digestive system is a very long tube, but these three arteries supply most of the parts of the GIT. Now coming to some coverings inside the abdomen, the organs, the intestine, GIT is not free, but it is covered by a thin fold of peritoneum. Thin fold, this is called as peritoneum. Peritoneum is the largest serous membrane of the body. If you see here, there is a thin fold of peritoneum. This we call as the peritoneum. Covers all the intestines as well as the liver, pancreas, everything. So this is called as peritoneum. It is nothing but a thin fold. Okay. It has two layers, the parietal layer and the visceral layer. Parietal means which is attached to the abdominal wall. This is called as parietal, and which is covering the intestine, stomach, everything. This is called as the visceral. So there is visceral peritoneum, parietal peritoneum. Okay. Parietal peritoneum will be in the front. Visceral peritoneum will be covering all the organs. The parietal layer which lines the abdominal wall, and the visceral layer which covers the organs, as I said, within the abdominal and pelvic cavity. And the space between the two layers is called as peritoneal cavity. In between these two, this is the parietal layer and this is the visceral layer. In between this pink colored area, this is called as the peritoneal cavity. It is not so big as it is shown here. So this just to appreciate, they are shown big pink area. So this is nothing but the peritoneal cavity, contains small quantity of fluid called as the serous fluid. This will help in the movement of the viscera over each other, allowing sliding. So this small fluid between these two layers will help in the movement of the intestine during peristalsis without any friction, without any inflammation and infection because of the movement. So this is all about this lecture, which is about the alimentary tract or the gastrointestinal tract, or it is also called as the digestive tract. So if you have any questions, you can ask me now.